Okay, so I'm just live with a few patrons. We've got Aaron, Anthony, Jose, Kevin. We might have some others drop in. We're just talking random shit. So, story. Oh, and I guess we've got Cam also. What's up, Cam?
Hello, how's everyone doing?
You have a radio voice, man. Truly, you should just
Thank you.
host on a radio with that velvety voice. So, sorry, what were you saying there? And you're just saying you just came across my stuff recently, basically, is what I took from that. You still there, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, wait. Well, yeah, I just like really started watching your videos this month, but I watched like some collaborations with you and Richard for like the last couple of months and shit. But I don't know, like you and Richard are probably the most like, in my opinion, the best vegan YouTubers out there. Because like I'm really attracted towards people that like really shove the facts up other people's asses. Like, you tend to go a little bit more aggressive, and Richard too, and like that really, I really like that.
It's funny because he swears more, but I'm pushier. Like, I mean, Richard's very friendly, and he'll usually follow wherever you want to go in the conversation.
Yeah.
I also a funny thing that I've noticed is there's people seem to think that I don't know how to not treat a conversation like a debate. It's like I think that there's just people not knowing my actual character syndrome going on here, because the thing is, like, if you go watch debates, it's like, no shit, I'll be in debate mode. But you see me talking to people in the Discord or in a context where it's a conversation, and it's a very different vibe, to say the least.
Yeah, very, very chill relative to like your debate mode. But like when you're in debate mode, you're really like going ham.
Well, I try to be clear and try to hammer the point in. So speaking of debates, so obviously we're still trying to get Blair to debate. And now Warski Live has joined the fold, and Warski Live is posting shit at Blair White, trying to get her to come and debate Richard and I on a blood sports match.
10 years though.
Yeah, I know. 10 years though.
Oh man, I smelled that yesterday. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I mean, the funniest name, everyone's been naming themselves after things that were said in that debate, and my favorite is 10-year killing spree, though, with a little perfect hand sign.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's Matt Klaus, the Save Movement organizer from Arizona.
Oh boy.
It was pretty funny. But I told JF, I was like, look, we will battle the entire audience of Blair White. She can bring all of her friends, and she can bring whatever subs she wants. And Richard and I will two-man tank the entire lot of them, as long as it's moderated so we get a chance to talk. Yeah, and I know JF will be a completely fair mod. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. If you're going to turn down literally an offer to show up with your entire fan base to debate people, I mean, that seems like...
It's like gods versus peasants.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Everyone is too scared.
I think most people don't want to step in. I mean, because at this point, it's like we've basically talked to a big chunk of the skeptics, like Cognitive Thought, Ranting Monkey, Sinatra Says, Friended, I don't know, both of the Warskis, Roaming Millennial. It's just been basically like a unilateral obliteration of these people that's been going on ever since the Skeptic Debate Challenge. And now we barely get any challenges because most of them just realize it's not going to turn out well.
Yeah, so the low IQ destruction.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And the worst part is that some of these people are not low IQ. Most of the skeptics we've talked to, I think, are not that brainy. But someone like JF, I think he's actually a very smart guy, but he's just got a completely crazy position that no one's going to want to get on board with.
Yeah, so, same with Destiny,
yeah,
for example.
Too. Yes.
Well, yeah, and what I would point out is that, okay, sorry, whose mic does that clickety clickety? If
Not me.
I think it was Anthony because it's gone now. Yeah, so the thing is, you're going to end up in these debates, if you do okay, reducing your opponent always to either inconsistency or absurdity. And now, from experience doing this a lot of times online and off, it's way more common to reduce somebody to inconsistency. And most of the people we've debated have been reduced to inconsistency. So they end up saying, you get Friended saying in group doesn't justify murder, or Roaming saying that, emotional level or intelligence doesn't justify murder, Warsty saying that species does and doesn't justify murder. Then so most people, they just take an inconsistent position, but there are some people, and I think it's usually the smarter people who do this, who would sooner say something completely fucking insane than be caught in an inconsistency live on the internet. And that's where you get people like JF or Destiny, who I will admit are consistent, but they're both on the record against like just basic human rights at this point. Destiny is on record saying it's fine to genocide innocent women and children.
Jeez, I didn't know he was that bad.
I laughed so hard when I saw that. Holy shit.
Richard reduced him to complete absurdity in their debate. Go watch that if you haven't. And then
that was so funny. I loved that one. That one was so good. Because I really enjoy some of Destiny's content, and then like seeing him like fucking getting obliterated is so funny. Holy shit.
It does happen. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I thought I would only run into that on the internet, but then like I was talking, I think yesterday or whatever, I had that conversation with my friends, and they said they'd kill their own mothers.
Oh my god! I wish wow, that's nuts.
So like me and another friend were like talking. We were all like drunk as fuck, but like we were all debating shit, and it basically went down to whether or not they can communicate with them in a human way. And I was like, okay, so you couldn't communicate with your mother in a human way, you would kill her, right? And they're like, yeah, I would.
Oh yeah.
I'm like okay.
Well, and there's where what comes to my mind is the difference between debate and persuasion. Because when you're doing a debate, the goal is pretty much to get to that point right there. Because in a moral debate, it's like you can't necessarily convince someone that they're morally wrong. A lot of people are not movable, and they're going to insist on their position. And it's not like there's a fact of the matter like there is with logic, where it's like this is reality or this isn't reality. With morality, the best you can do is show that they're not following their own foundations, or that their foundations are crazy. So the win condition in a public moral debate, in my opinion, is getting the other person to a point that they express a position that only a fringe minority of the population will get on board with. But what you're talking about there, trying to communicate with friends, I mean, presumably your goal is not just to own them, unless you're just trying to sharpen your debate skills, but you probably want to persuade them. And that's where it's like, okay, so now they've bitten the bullet on being completely insane, and they're obviously being intellectually dishonest. So, I guess now I need to take some other path to like try to get them to accept reality.
Yeah, I mean, I was just pretty much tired at that point, so I didn't push it any further. I was like, I mean, you're gonna kill your own mother, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think also Sam Harris said this really well. He said something along the lines of people tend not to admit mistakes in real time.
Oh, yeah.
But given the opportunity to think about it a bit, oftentimes later they'll come back and say, okay, I don't agree with what I was saying.
Yeah. I think that I don't know if it'll happen with them because I know them, but they definitely would not come to me and say that, I think. Just because
it was the same for me, because like when I started watching vegan gains, like back in 2015, I think, like he taught me vegan, first of all, and like first like I remember watching the worst of the fitness industry Jeff Side video, and like back then I was like fucking the like in the aesthetics community, whatever, like the YOLO lifestyle, and like that video triggered the shit out of me, the worst of the fitness industry. But like all of the facts that he stated in that video, they really like stuck to me, and I just came back to watching his videos, and yeah, then like from all the data that he just like threw at me, like I just ate it all up, and then that turned me vegan from one day to the other.
I think with Richard, a lot of people have the reaction of, and this is why I think what he does is good, and I think people like Unnatural Vegan are wrong. I'd also like to tell you guys, we have a total of 1 whole viewer right now. So whoever you are out there watching this stream. Yeah, but I was going to say that Richard is polarizing as fuck. So a lot of people, and he'll tell you this, have the response of watching his video, spazzing out even. Sometimes they don't just get annoyed by it like you. Sometimes they leave these spaz out comments. And then months down the line saying, you know, I hated you at the start, but I actually have gone vegan now.
Yeah, true. I saw that too. I saw a lot of those too.
You mentioned how he's just a fact compiling machine. I mean, have any of you guys ever looked at like personality type psychology?
A bit, but well, I have heard a little bit about it. But...
I saw the video where you had him take the test.
Yeah, like in MBTI, which is another type system, it's not as empirically validated, but I think it's really interesting. Sure. There's a lot of good info there. Richard is like the most classic INTP type ever. So like, I mean, you guys know me, like I'm totally different. I don't go deep into looking at data. That's part of why I don't deal with health and environment, because those are data heavy topics. I like to argue concepts and abstractions and philosophy. But when you need someone to just spend a long ass time just trolling through all of the data and just coming to the proper position and just getting it all collected, that is just where Richard does such a good job. Like right now, he's making a response to the Blair White stream, and he was referring to his own this sort of what he's doing right now is weaponized autism. And he's just going through the whole thing. He's going through like backlogs of videos that she had. And he's just digging up all of these hilarious contradictions. And at this point, he's amassed just like so many that it makes a pretty compelling case when you hear them all together. So yeah, I like that about him. He's very good at doing research and just getting right to the bottom of matters of fact like that.
Yeah, I see you guys as two sides of the same coin, and you approach it philosophically and logically, whereas he has the biological and empirical approach just down.
I would completely agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a good duo. Like I haven't seen a better duo in the vegan community, especially with you and Richard. And that's like why I have you two on Patreon.
It's almost like there's no point that either of you could lose against, whether it's on either side of that coin.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. And speaking of Patreon, I appreciate the support of all you guys and the 4 people who we now have listening. Yeah, I mean, I don't thank my patrons a whole lot. I don't know why. Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I don't care. I think it's also part of me just knows that you guys don't care too much about me saying shit to you. You'd probably rather just see actual content and shit happening. So that's kind of where I focus my energy. But yeah, patrons are truly appreciated, because if it weren't for you guys, I would be caught up spending most of my time doing bullshit minimum wage, or probably by this point I'd likely be spending my time in school. So
yeah,
well,
and, happy to do it, man.
Totally. Well, yeah, thanks a bunch. And at some point I think I probably will go to school just to probably like, you know, just get even more knowledge, because I just my reasoning is if I can own people pretty well right now, if you add a degree to it, surely it's just going to get stronger. So that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, it'll have more weight behind it.
I think so. And then also speaking of just the duo of Richard and I, we were actually talking about that today. And what we really need is a fucking trio, because I think most people conceptualize veganism as having 3 core components, which are health, nutrition, and environment. I mean, most of us will say, I said that wrong. Health, environment, and ethics. Sorry. And most of us will probably say ethics matters the most to us. I think that most people who've been vegan for a while tend to care about ethics. If you go around and ask a handful of vegans, the most common response is ethics. But it's still like, it's got those 3 kind of core pillars to it. And we really need a guy who's as good with the nutritional data as Richard, but in the domain of environments. Like they're as good with the environmental data as he is with the nutritional data. Because that would be, then we could do 3-on-3s. And we could it would be like just Annihilation Force. I would absolutely love that. So it's almost like, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like you're waiting for the third part, and then it's going to merge and form something that's greater than the sum of its parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Richard is already pretty good when it comes to environmental stuff, but like he isn't at like the perfect level. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he says that himself. To be clear,
Yeah.
I agree he's good, but the way he puts it is just he's not deep into that information. He
Yeah,
doesn't
and
know shit
like
about
10
it.
seconds, I'll go off the call for like 10 seconds. I'll be back because I have to reconnect and fix some shit on my PC. Okay.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, okay.
It's all good. Yeah, I think that. I mean, Richard also is just generally more rounded than me because he's also really good with ethics. Like, there's levels of philosophical nuance where he gets like it gets a little into he's not like as comfortable as he is with other stuff. He still wins the ethical debates. I've not seen him actually lose an ethical debate, but he'll tell you he's more comfortable with health, obviously. But he's got a very good grasp of all three with the kind of specialization in health. Whereas me, I have actually literally barely any grasp of the health and nutrition. I just have a decent handle on the ethics.
Yeah, Richard definitely helped me out understanding the nutrition a lot more.
Yeah, he's really good for that.
Yeah.
I see we have someone else in here.
No, it's me. It's me.
Oh, okay.
I just like I couldn't figure out how to fucking change my profile picture on the other account, so I had to join with this account.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries at all.
I'm not a smiley face IRL.
No, okay.
There's the Trigger Jeff side fan right there, huh?
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah.
So, I mean, I could talk about a million things. We could talk about the Blair White debate. If there's any topics you guys want to talk about, if there's any philosophy things you want to try to hash out. I mean, do you guys have any stuff you want to talk about, or do you want me to just lead the conversation?
I think just a quick point, like just to not to backtrack or anything, but we were talking about earlier. I just didn't speak up at the time, but I noticed people are very uncomfortable with having their hypocrisy exposed. They see it as like a really bad thing, and they almost don't want to admit it, or they don't even want to talk about it. And whereas for me, I realized it. I was like, oh shit, I'm being a hypocrite right now. Like that's, I looked at all the arguments, and for the most part, it wasn't until I looked into the ethical things, thanks to your YouTube channel and what you do. I wasn't a vegan, and I've been vegan now for about 3 or 4 months, and it's the only thing that really makes sense to me as I keep going, and it wasn't nearly as difficult a decision as I thought it would be. And a switch to it. It wasn't difficult at all. I still eat everything that I pretty much used to eat, just different versions of it from different sources, and that's it. And it wasn't difficult at all.
Totally. I agree that it's not difficult at all. It's always weird to me to hear people saying they went vegan from watching my stuff. It's like, because I don't make it necessarily with that intention. It's not that I don't want people to go vegan, but I make content for vegans, right? It was,
right. It was almost like the final kind of just tipping point for me. Yeah, it was the nail in the coffin. It's like I almost, in the back of my mind, I always kind of felt bad about it. I hadn't looked into it. I'm not sure why. I think it was just because I was comfortable with how I was, born and raised. And for the most part, I look at friends of mine in that same context where it's like they were raised doing it, and I'm not sure how I could approach them without just kind of being a dick. And then I think about myself, I'm like, well, I was doing it my entire life. Like, so maybe there's a better way to approach them, because it wasn't until I kind of heard these arguments, and they were put forth in a kind of a more decent way and not so much of a polarizing way, that I listened, and I was like, oh shit, I should look into this. Why do I eat what I eat? And, what can I do to change it? And is it really that difficult? And, the answers to all of those were, no, it's not that difficult. I eat what I eat because I'm comfortable with it. And, all of these arguments make sense. And, I even looked into it, and I think the name, the trade argument in some form, it relates to, I think it's called the argument from, marginal cases, right? Exactly. And I when I looked into it, I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I think is the most ethical way to live, and I agree with everything. So if I want to live more ethically, right? Because I'm, even Blair White tried to do this to you. It's like, oh well, we all do unethical things. I'm like, yeah, but we're not talking about everything. We're just talking about this specific thing, like, and you, like you said, you're stabbing a cat to death just because I want to eat it, and it's like, okay, and you kept trying to keep her to stick on the point, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Sorry, I'm kind of ranting now, but
no, it's all good. Yeah, it's weird because we do allow some amount of imperfection, but we also draw a very clear line where we say things below this line are just not okay.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to grill someone to death for lying once. It'll say something about their character, but it's not the end of the world.
Sure.
It's like we accept some level of ethical imperfection, but no one says it's okay to just occasionally murder somebody.
Yeah, she basically made the piece like computer screen is just as bad as fucking killing cows. Like
Yeah,
that argument, like that
that's-
doesn't make sense.
No.
Like you can't compare it all. Like cars, like we have so many uses for cars that like that
okay.
aren't just like direct killing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
I don't even think you have to make it a hardcore case in terms of use. I think there's an even more basic level there. But I just want to say one more thing to Jose. Two more, actually. I want to ask, how old are you? If you don't have to say if you don't want to.
I mean, I can't. I'm 25.
Okay, that makes sense. I think the other thing, that's how old I am. You're talking about, a lot of people are so sensitive about acknowledging hypocrisy. I just saw the hypocrisy and changed. And I think part of that is it's easier for younger people to do it.
Sure.
But I also, it's weird because it's very easy to sound self-congratulatory. Like, yeah, I just am not a fucking idiot. And I just changed my views with evidence.
Right,
And other
right.
people aren't as good. But it's like, there's actually literally a level of truth to that and I just relate it to the concept of, mental fortitude or mental strength. It's like, it's actually true that there are people out there who see the information and go, this is wrong, I need to change. And there's people who are presented with the information and sense there's something wrong, but are not willing to change. And so they just get cognitive dissonance and do all sorts of stupid shit and start saying it's okay to kill retards. And it's just, there's those two paths fundamentally.
Yeah.
I almost didn't even talk about it. I would just kind of avoid the topic, even though in the back of my mind, like I always knew, I'm like, I should look into this more. Why am I not doing this more? And I don't remember how I even stumbled on your content. It must have been from one of Richard's videos or something. But even when I was watching his videos, I wasn't vegan. And I was like, oh, man, this guy's so right about everything. And like, what am I doing? And I think it just eventually hit a tipping point. But like, yeah, and you're right. Most people are just, if you're born that way and that's what you know your entire life, and somebody tells you you're wrong, and you're not willing to even examine why, even examine what they're saying. If you're just like, no, this is what, this is just what I know. So, there's no point. I remember somebody brought the topic up with me the other night at some party and everybody jumped down my throat. And I was just like, hey, listen, like all I'm doing is asking questions here. Right. And like, I got a guy to, bite the bullet on, would you let your neighbor, just torture and kill dogs? Right. Because there's no discernible difference between a dog and a cow or whatever. And when he bit the bullet on that, everybody else that was there was like, what? You got to be kidding me. And I was like, yeah, but at least he's consistent. You know what I mean? At least he's being consistent. You guys don't realize that you're being absolutely hypocritical right now.
And the ironic thing is that if they're being inconsistent, biting the bullet on a particular type of craziness that justifies holocausting one group of people, like maybe, dogs or retards or something, that's bad. Right. If you bite the bullet on inconsistency, that justifies everything. So it's actually a worse position. And the other thing I just wanted to hit on was now that it says Yuki, I don't remember. Was it Aaron? Aaron was the name?
Yeah, it's Aaron.
Sorry, I'm a bit forgetful with names. You'll have to forgive me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same.
Totally. My name's Isaac. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't even know what my name is in here.
It says Discortelligent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and by the way, your response to Mirmir's head was fucking great. I love that.
Oh, thanks.
To Aaron, though, yeah, no problem. To Aaron, I was going to say, we were just kind of talking about the driving a car, and you're talking about the benefits that a car yields. I mean, I think you can make actually an ethical case for people dying for things that don't provide as tangible and direct a benefit as a car. I mean, I think that we accept people dying fundamentally in the production of all sorts of goods, including like pens and and random shit like this. And, I mean, it's basically just the thing to understand there is that we don't see human life value as infinite. If you picture a spectrum and at one end you have infinite value and at the other end you have zero value, pretty much everyone views humans as sitting at some place on that spectrum. And most of us see it as around the same place intuitively because of our shared evolution. So a way to show this is if a human had no value, people would think it's fine to do whatever you want to anybody. And not many people think that that's how we should operate. if humans had infinite value, then it would be wrong to do anything that statistically raises the risk of hurting a human in any context ever. We would not have cars. We would be a radically different society. So we kind of make a trade-off. We accept a certain level of risk, and we accept a certain level of benefit. And basically, the thing that people always try to do is they try to go to moral gray areas and stuff, and it's like, well, talking about the gray areas in the animal context, it's not that interesting to me because, like, we have this model for how we should treat humans. And all I'm saying is that our animal model should be a logically consistent extension of that. I'm not even saying the human model is perfect. It might change, and then our animal model will obviously, as a result of that, change also. I just argue for consistency between the two. And also just with stuff like when you talk about killing animals for, whether it's in crop production or for products like this, because we're talking about humans dying from some of these things. There's also the point of animals dying. You have to realize the nature of the situation, which is if you're going to say that the only things that can possibly justify animal death are pure necessity, then you'd have to basically collapse most of society because most of what we do is not necessary to survive. So you'd be talking about obliterating whole industries. You'd be talking about a pretty intense position. And again, a position we don't even hold when it comes to humans. So what I'd point out is it's easy to pick one thing in isolation and go, oh, kill an animal for a soybean. But the deeper, way more interesting point is that the standard by which you would tell someone they can't do that would also rule out virtually all of the other shit that we're doing as humans and make society into just something completely insane that's nothing like a modern world.
I always think about
just one thing. Sorry. So I'm just pointing out that part of dealing with that really comes down to extrapolating it out of the specific context and pointing out the general consequence of accepting the rule that someone's proposing there of never do anything but necessary killing. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I always think of the percentage of harm something does. So like cars, like they do like 1% harm in the sense of that, like 1% of people that drive one or even less percent of people that drive cars like get into accidents or whatever, and that's like a good trade-off. Like if only that small amount of people get hurt or whatever for this huge amount of use that we get out of this technology, then it's worth it. But like when you extend that to animals, like we literally do 100% harm. Like it's literally like we only, and we do it for an unnecessary thing. Like there is no logic behind that to begin with. So like I don't know, like for me it's just like extremely logically inconsistent when there is literally no use to eat animals. So
well, yeah, it's logically inconsistent to an honest.
So yeah, you can't compare it to cars or desktop PCs or whatever, because the amount of use that we get out of them that's necessary or that's at least very useful is like zero with killing animals.
Yes, so, I understand that you can make an argument for driving and not for murdering animals on the grounds of the benefit they provide versus the harm they cause. I totally that's kind of like a consequentialist type argument, and I think that's a good argument. There's also just a general kind of proof by contradiction argument that can be a bit more useful in some contexts, because what you're doing, if you do that in a lot of discussions repeatedly, you'll notice a trend that you'll find yourself in a lot of meta-ethical debates. If you use proof by contradiction, then you can circumvent meta-ethics by just arguing them to a position from beliefs they already hold, instead of having to talk about how we should fundamentally determine what is and isn't ethical. So when you're talking about, what allowing a car or allowing something like this, I mean, you can just look at, do we currently accept this for ourselves? And if we do, then it would be crazy to argue against it in the animal context.
Yeah. Well, I don't know too much about ethics and logic because I haven't taken logic classes or whatever, or read up on that topic. But I'm more into it because of the nutritional benefits and long-term health benefits. Like that's the 80% reason why I'm vegan, and that's also what got me into it in the beginning. But yeah, then like the ethics and all that other shit came over, and like
I'm sure
there is just so many fucking look, like the funniest thing about this whole thing is that there are so many fucking reasons why you should be vegan in this day and age in a civilized country. or like a modern country. Like there's so many fucking reasons, and they are so big. Like they have so much influence on society and yourself. So like I don't like people must have cognitive dissonance or whatever, in like in order to not stay vegan, or like they're just plain ignorant. It's so hard for me to understand it.
During that same party, I basically asked, one of the girls was saying, it's like I said, okay, so you eat animal products because you think you need them to survive, right? She said yes, right? I was like, so that's the only reason you think that you would need to consume animal products? She said yes. I said, okay, so if I were to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt, right, irrefutably, that you didn't need them to survive and to function optimally, would you stop eating animal products? And she struggled so hard with that question. And I was like, see, this is the problem right here. It's like, this is why I probably don't even know how to have a discussion with you, because you just told me this is why I think I should do it. If you prove to me that, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt that I didn't have to live this way, I would still do so. Like, then what's the point of talking to you? What's the point of even having a discussion?
Well, and especially what's the point of having a discussion about health? I mean, she should become aware of the facts, but it's interesting because the way that you managed to ask her the question showed that her initial, you know, barrier to going vegan was actually just a complete smokescreen. Oh, it's about the health. Okay, well, assume we get that off the table. Would you go vegan? Well, no. Okay, well, then it's not really about the health, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of people, like, obviously it's like the not being able to accept that you might be a bad person. And like, if you, like, for me, like giving up a religion, I think was the hardest thing, or one of the more harder things I had to do. So like when it came to veganism, I'd already gone through that, like that sort of feeling. So it was just like, you know, immediate. I was just like, okay, I'm changing.
Yeah, you recognize the feeling of what it's like to be on the wrong side of something, obviously, and have cognitive dissonance,
and have so many years of believing something that's incorrect. So, like, if they haven't gone through that yet, then it's going to be way harder for them.
I'm sure we agree on this. So this is just a technical point, but I don't think we'd say that they are bad people. I think we'd say they're doing bad actions, and then they become a bad person when you are consciously doing the bad actions.
When you call them out on it,
when they say that killing animals is bad, and then they still do it, that makes them a bad person.
And like, I wouldn't even say that someone like Jose, right? I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. Jose. I wouldn't even say someone like Jose was being a bad person when he had some small level of awareness of it, but didn't really consider it. Because there's lots of things that are like that in our mind. It's like, oh, I probably made that person feel like shit. Like, and you kind of want to dedicate some thought to it, and then you kind of start thinking about the next thing, and it kind of slips your mind. It's like, that's not necessarily being immoral. That's just not realizing the moral gravity of something enough to think about it. The people who I call immoral are the people who really get what's going on. They fully know what's up, and they just keep supporting it.
Yeah, I have a friend like that, and he was vegan for a month, but like he just gave it up because he thought it was too much of a struggle to go to a restaurant and not being able to eat all the stuff he wanted. Even though I also convinced one of our closest friends to go vegan, and he's still vegan. And like, I just don't understand it, how you could have so little willpower.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
You're also kind of a motivated dude, though. Like, you've done military stuff, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's already, you're probably selected for someone who's a bit a go-getter right there. You kind of need to have that attitude. Sure. But
it really depends on if I care or not. That's
I hear that. When did you figure out religion was bullshit?
Probably my senior year of high school.
And sorry, how many years ago is that? How old are you, Cam?
I'm 23 now, so about 5 years ago, maybe, or like probably like 6.
And were you a serious Christian, or were you just?
No, I was just like, you know, pretty much like everybody else. You grow up, your parents tell you God's real, and then there was just like, I was sitting in class with like my friends, and they were like joking about religion when I was religious, and then I was like, it's like, I mean, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said something, and I was like, that is weird. And then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have this one buddy raised in a Christian family. I was once at a bar with him, and I called religion ancient mythology, and he got really mad about it. And he later, though, he just was like, yeah, I totally don't know what I was thinking. Religion is obviously complete bullshit. So people often, they do this. You say something that triggers them. They get mad at you. and then months down the line they end up saying something like, have you guys not had this experience with veganism where you get in a huge argument with someone and you really let them have it, or like ream them out or show them they're wrong very thoroughly, and they're calling you an asshole and all this, and then you get a text like a few months later and they're like, fuck it, you're actually right about that, I was being stupid.
Yeah, I had two of the people that hammered me the most and annoyed the fuck out of me about being vegan the most. I mean, they're not vegan now, but they tried like vegan for about a month each.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they don't talk shit because I could just call them pussies.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny because it's really weird to think that you could have such negative emotion to someone, and then that negative emotion and the fact that they were willing to make you feel that can actually ultimately make you respect them later on.
Yeah, exactly. That was the same thing with me and Richard in the beginning.
Exactly.
exactly the same thing. Like, watched one video, then that triggered me, and then a couple of weeks later I came back and like, yeah, thanks for making me vegan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's just
it's like a mind blow. It's like I don't know. It's like when something like that happens, like something that has a huge impact on your lifestyle and whatever, like it's just like blows your mind. How stuff like that can happen.
Absolutely.
So randomly.
I noticed the quieter people in here are Kevin and Anthony. You guys are of course welcome to just chill, but I try to be introvert accommodating. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about that you've been wanting to clear up or discuss?
I'm here. I'm just eating some grapes right now.
Grapes are where it's at.
The green ones are the best.
Ooh, I'm not.
Is that what we got to debate about now? Yeah.
If you guys want to see a great debate, if you want to see an awesome debate, look up Steven Pinker versus Alan Dershowitz on what is better, a latke or a hamantaschen. It's God. Like they're both Jewish. They're both really like heavyweight intellectuals, but for Passover this one year, they had a public debate on which food is better, and Tinker's making this case for like how horrible the pluralization of hamantaschen is, and how it's not compatible with universal grammar, so it cuts against human nature and we should abandon it. It's really funny. It shows like there is a level of debate that's literally just rhetoric and sophistry, and like if you're smart, you can just make up shit that's doesn't really make sense, but it like seems to superficially make sense.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the reason why I came on the stream was that your NTT concept.
Oh, sorry, to be clear, are you on Discord? Are you Great Slifer or
yeah, that was me, yeah.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't quite get the criticism about that. Oh, if it's multiple traits, that it's suddenly different in that sense. That's why I don't know. You said like because it was multiple traits, you can really bring down the entity concept, something like that.
Let me be clear. It could be multiple traits that justify something. You could say that murder is justified on the grounds of a combination of species and IQ or something like that. It's not a problem with naming multiple traits. It's when you try to say that the trait is just the total set of traits that differentiate an animal from a human, and if you change them all, then the human loses value. That's not actually being specific. That's just appealing to what I would call a totality of unspecified differences. And a totality of unspecified differences exists between any two things. So that logic could actually justify murdering literally anything. You can ask questions if that's not clear or if that's not making sense to you.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, when I was saying, because the thing is that you say only with one trait, with your name the trait. So I was just getting to the point, like, I think when Carnists use their argument, they use multiple traits. Like for their strongest argument, they use multiple traits to distinguish between an animal and a human. So that's kind of the reason why I was thinking that if they use multiple traits to distinguish between an animal and a human, to remove the human element from the human, like multiple traits like intelligence, emotion, and all that,
Mhm.
then it wouldn't be absurd in that sense to call them to call their position absurd if they say that, okay, we can now treat them as a non-human because we've removed all of the non-human traits, so it wouldn't be that much of
Okay.
a difference. Yeah.
There's two things you could be saying. It seemed earlier like you were saying it's just the total sum of differences between the two things. So that's like a kind of like appeal to totality. So that's a problem on a different level. If what you're just saying is maybe it's a set of like 3 or 4 or 5 traits, maybe it's like intelligence and emotional level and all this. Again, you just run it through the exact same formula and it's going to reduce them to inconsistency or absurdity. We can try doing devil's advocate a bit if you want to try to defend that position. But the basic thing is like you'd be like, okay, so it's a combination of emotional range and IQ and what's another, self-concept. It's like, okay, so let's just plug those 3 traits in and let's see if it justifies murder. I mean, okay, so you've got a human who's not got a self-concept, they're lower in intelligence and they have a smaller emotional range. So there's, for example, retarded people who would be like that. Do you accept killing those people? So the person.
No, I'm not saying for me, but I'm saying for like from a Carnus perspective, like when they
I know you're not saying for you. I'm just pointing out what I would when I'm saying you. I'm talking generally, not to you specifically, as if you're making that argument.
Yeah. Yeah, because if they define those traits as the ones that make something a human, and they remove those traits, those human traits, from that something, I mean, I don't see how them treating that something as a non-human is an absurd position. That's
it would, yeah, it would be a consistent position if they're willing to discriminate against humans based on the same traits that they're using to justify discriminating against animals. But it would be an absurd position if it results in you being able to say, well, it's just okay to murder certain humans needlessly. So why don't we try devil's advocate? Why don't you try to make the case for multiple traits, and I'll show you why it doesn't work.
Okay, so let's say that if you the difference between a human and an animal is the ability to feel emotion, intelligence, a certain level of intelligence, and being connected to other humans. Yeah, those are the traits that, off the top of my head, I would choose.
Okay, so emotion, intelligence, and connection to other humans. Now, one thing I would point out here is that generally I would make people go one by one, but I know I'm talking to a vegan who's not going to dishonestly dodge around, so it doesn't really matter. But you can also make them go one by one, and if they try to resist that, then I mean, by saying the whole is greater than the sum of their parts, you can also, that can be dealt with. Also, there's a way to deal with that. But okay, so if it's, what did we say? You said it's intelligence, emotional range, and ability to relate to other humans. So okay, you've got a human who's lower intelligence than a cow. They still experience well-being, suffering. They just can't do much. They can solve basic problems. They're mobile. Their emotional range is about the same. I mean, you know, they're happy and they love their kids and they would cry if their kid was stolen from them. They've just got the emotional range of an animal, right? And they are too retarded to really connect with humans in a meaningful way. Would you say that it's okay to kill those people?
If from my perspective, I choose those traits as the distinguishing non-human traits, then
yeah, you're playing a Carnus right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying from the Carnus position yes to that? Okay, so
yes.
The logical conclusion of that would be that it is okay to commit a holocaust of people who have those traits. So as long as someone's lower emotional range, lower intelligence, and can't really relate to other humans, we can just murder them. So that would be absurd in most people's mind because most people believe in universal human rights. So if you start saying it's okay to just holocaust a particular group of humans, most people would agree that that's absurd. So there's some people who won't, most would. If you get someone to that point in a public debate, then you'll have won the debate.
Yeah, it's basically like saying kill all sociopathic retarded people is allowed in that context.
Well, yeah, because the thing
to
you
stay
have
consistent.
Well, yeah, because the thing you have to understand, Kevin, is what is the win condition in a moral debate? In a moral debate, I mean, you can't always persuade the person you're talking to adopt your moral system. The goal is to increase the percentage of people who view their position as crazy as high as you possibly can. So if you can point out that their position ethically justifies a Holocaust, that will be enough for most people to say that position is absurd. So that's pretty much what you'd want to do in a moral debate. Is that fairly clear to you, or do you have more you want to ask?
Maybe I'm just being dense. I mean, just bear with me. I mean, maybe like
no, take your time.
I mean, like that's the thing. Like because they highlighted the differences which makes a person something non-human, and if they were to like I don't know, if a group of people like in the audience were to agree that okay, these set of differences makes that something human, and they got that removed, then I don't see how that would be absurd in their eyes, and how you would persuade them to think that that's an absurd position if they all think that that's not,
Yeah, there are people, there's a very small fringe minority of people who will accept the position of holocausting mentally retarded people. Most won't. So this is why I kind of told you you have to think of what the win condition is in a debate. In a moral debate, you won't always be able to actually get the guy who you're debating to say, my position is crazy, I renounce my position. In fact, basically every debate you get in, someone won't say that, especially if it's public and it's in front of people and their reputation is on the line at all. But the win condition is not to convince the person you're talking to. The win condition is to raise the percentage of people watching who think that their position is insane as high as you possibly can. So sure, there could be some fraction of people who will say, I'm okay with the retard Holocaust, my position's consistent, and their position is consistent. It's very evil, though, in the eyes of basically everybody. If you go down a street, I would be amazed if even 1% of the population said that a retard Holocaust is ethical. So you're talking about a fringe minority of people.
See, but that's the thing. When you talk about the retard, I mean, I don't know, like when you say in like everyday situation that saying just retard is just a bit funny. But okay, in our
yeah, I know. That's why I say it so casually. I think it's funny to just like, say it completely deadpan. Yeah.
You've said it like 100 times overall in your lifetime. It's a bit,
I've said it more than that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think like the thing is when you mentioned the retard part, it's like in your eyes you've already discerned. There's still some human traits of that retard, which if the other carnists were to say, okay, it's okay to.
Sorry, you got to let me butt in here because there's an unnecessary level of complication to what you're saying. It doesn't have to be traits that make them human or something like this. It just has to be traits that justify murder. So we don't have to talk about whether the definition of human is based on those traits. We just have to talk about whether murder is justified by the absence of those traits.
Yeah. On that case, yeah, I would agree with you. But it's like, yeah, for the carnist view, like they're just saying what makes one human, and these are the human traits, not like what makes something, ethically worth considering, which is the position that I would take. It's like,
wait, but don't even characterize that as the carnist view, because that isn't actually the carnist view, because that cuts against basic human rights, and most carnists will actually reject that kind of reasoning.
What, that if you take every agreeable human trait and you remove it from someone?
Well, you're switching around just a little bit, because the three traits you were using, that would justify killing a mentally retarded person.
No, that was just like off the top of my head. But I'm saying like if you were to get a consensus on like all of the traits that the majority of people would consider human, makes one human, and then you would use those traits in order to remove it from that human. What's to say that they would
The whole point of Name the Trait is that you can't actually specify those traits in a way that won't cut against basic human rights. So that's why I said try playing devil's advocate, try actually doing it.
Wait, I mean, wait, can you repeat that? I mean, yeah, I'm just.
That's okay.
I'm not trying to like just argue. Just
No. It's totally
yeah.
fine. I'd rather you leave understanding this. So basically, okay, the first thing we need to start from like bare bones here. So what are you trying to do when you're trying to talk to someone? Are you trying to persuade that person to go vegan?
Sure.
Okay, because that is not the purpose of Name the Trait. Name the Trait, the purpose is just to expose the position as either inconsistent or absurd. And absurd, by that, I generally mean cuts against basic human rights. So you don't want to be looking at it like the goal is, if I deploy Name the Trait properly, that should convince them to go vegan. That doesn't always happen. It's just designed to show if they're absurd or inconsistent. So there might be a problem of what your expectations of the argument are.
No, I mean, it's not the. I think that wasn't the point of how I view the argument. It's just that when you say that, you point out the absurdity, it's basically saying that they know that these traits aren't the only ones that make up a human, and that's why they will reject the holocaust of that group of people who don't have that trait.
Let me correct that. It's not just that those are the traits that make up a human. It's that they know, the average person knows full well that those traits don't justify killing a human.
Oh yeah, those traits also justify killing other non-humans, such as animals. So
if someone's saying that, that's an inconsistent position. If they're saying these traits don't justify killing humans but do justify killing animals, that's an inconsistent position, and from that, anything would follow. You can say, sorry.
I was saying that, like they know that these traits make it so that human is protected from being killed, and also non-human animals are protected from being killed because they share those traits in that sense, because it's inherent within, like everyone. Yeah, they think that they know that that's what should be respected in that sense. Like internally.
Well, they at least know that those traits don't justify killing the being, right? So the point of Name the Trait really is just you get one of two results when you put this argument out there, unless someone tries to get away from the argument altogether, but let's not count that. Either it's going to reduce them to rejecting basic human rights, or it's going to reduce them to inconsistency. So fundamentally, it's like they're either going to put a factor on the table, Kevin, and they're going to say this factor, intelligence or emotional level or whatever it is, this justifies killing, and I'm consistent about it. I will kill a human who lacks these qualities, and I will kill an animal who lacks these qualities. That's a consistent position. But since you're willing to kill humans, since it would justify a Holocaust, most people will call it absurd. And then on the other hand, you have someone who says, I will kill a human based on this quality. I'll kill a human who's less intelligent, but I won't kill, I'll kill an animal who's less intelligent, but I won't kill a human who's less intelligent. And that's just an inconsistent position. So the point of it is just to get them to a point of either their position being obviously absurd, cutting against basic human rights, or inconsistent. They're holding two separate positions in an unjustified way that conflict with each other.
I think that most people that choose the absurd way, or like the Destiny way, because like Destiny was the first one where it really like hit hard. Like I think these people are kind of like a little bit dishonest. They just really try to be consistent, and they just do everything that they can to stay consistent, but they are not actually being true to what they actually think, or like they are not actually saying what they actually think. So like in the end, they lie to themselves just to stay consistent. That's always like the feeling that I get from like debates with Destiny and whatever, and people that just like take the absurd route. I don't think that they actually think that like that's a good thing to genocide people or whatever. I just think that they want to stay consistent to look good or whatever.
Aaron, what I think is that there's, of the people who choose, and I'll get back to you, Kevin, of the people who choose the absurd path, who say, I'll be consistent, but I'll bite the bullet on some crazy factor like social contract or intelligence, most of the people who will do that are just trying to be consistent because they don't want to admit inconsistency, even if they look totally crazy. But there is actually a smaller subset of those people who will take that absurd option who are actually psychopaths.
Yeah, but I mean most people.
Yeah. Most people who take the absurd option are just trying to be consistent. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think anyone we've live debated is actually a psychopath. Maybe it's possible, like Milk Jar, someone might be. He just seems crazy in general. but most, yeah, well, let's not even go there. But most people who take the absurd path aren't actually psychopaths. But a real psychopath, who's not scared about being known as a psychopath or exposing themselves, which a lot of psychopaths don't want themselves to be exposed, will just say, yeah, I mean, I'd kill animals for that reason. I'd kill humans for that reason. Who cares?
Wait, how do you pronounce the name, like of the debate? Like, what was it? SV3 Rich
Swearwolves.
And then not Swearwolves?
Yeah, it's from another language. My best pronunciation I can manage is Sveria. It's something generally like that. Sveria.
Okay.
I'm sure that I sound retarded to anyone who's Swedish. If one of our 8 listeners is Swedish,
it's Sverige. It's Sverige.
Okay, well there you go.
Well, okay, that's how you pronounce it in Danish. I don't know if it's actually the same thing in Swedish, but
what's your location, if you don't mind? Where
I live at the border between Denmark and Germany.
Okay,
so like I'm German, but I go to the school in Denmark, or like I study in Denmark.
I seem to have a lot of German viewers, actually. Weirdly.
Really?
Okay. I've met a lot of people who are coming from Germany. So just to take it back to Kevin, I don't want us to have to spend the entire time on this. I don't want you to leave unsatisfied, because I have these streams to do stuff like clear up philosophical issues. So I'm wondering if you've gotten any clarity on this, or if you're still just at the same place of just I'm just confused.
No, because I still need some clarity. Sorry, guys.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, man. We don't look. I don't get mad at someone who genuinely wants clarity. You just want to understand what's up. The kind of things that make me get annoyed are people who are being dishonest. So don't worry about being an annoyance. So what exactly is unclear to you? Because I'm going to take a few more shots at it and see if I can get it across to you.
Yeah, like there was a statement that you made during your whole argument, and that was regards to what was it, like you were saying that if you were to take these traits off a human and like do a retard holocaust in that sense, most people would object to it because no, you were saying like, you kill this human who didn't have these traits, but that wouldn't really make sense because these traits are the traits that make them human. And you still called me human with those traits. So I was just
okay, sorry. I see what you're saying now. That's just semantic. If you change enough of the traits, they're not a human. Obviously, I've pointed this out before. If you change all the traits, they'd become an animal. So when I'm saying you wouldn't kill a human if you remove those traits, I'm saying whatever that being becomes when you remove the traits, would you then kill it? I'm not like, that's just what that is just semantic. You're going, I define a human as this. If I remove these traits, it's not a human anymore. So whatever. But the thing is, it's not fundamentally about the thing has to remain a human. It's about, you have an animal over here, you have a human over here, and it's about, can the human be reduced to the animal without losing value? And if it can, then you can't say the animal doesn't have value, because that'll be a logical contradiction. So if it doesn't matter if you actually call that being that you're changing qualities of and trying to test for value, it doesn't matter if you call it a human or not. The starting point is just, it's a human. Does that give you some more clarity?
Well, you're saying, so the starting point is a human, it says human, but then it doesn't matter at the end, like if it's a human or not. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you swap out a ton of traits, if you swap out all of the traits that differentiate a human from an animal, you'll have actually changed the human into an animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have to remain a human throughout the whole trait switching process. You're just pointing out that they start as a human, and at that point they have value. So is there actually some trait that we can remove that's lacking in an animal? Is there actually some trait we can remove that's going to make the human lose value? And if not, then you could remove all the traits that separate them from an animal and it would still retain value. But now it's an animal, and you're saying animals don't have value. So that's where the contradiction comes in. It also can take a bit of repetition to really get it clearly through your head. So you can just keep asking the same things until it becomes clear.
Yeah.
If I could also jump in here for a sec.
Totally. Maybe you can get it across
yeah, I
better
mean,
than me.
If you were to take down, like if they say, you know, it's X amount of traits that justify this, but you systematically, you know, work through each trait individually and you explain why they're inconsistent or wrong, then you ask them, well, what makes what makes these traits altogether mean anything if every single one is, you know, not even consistent alone?
Oh yes, no. What you're saying is true, and that gets at like that whole is the whole greater than the sum of its parts appeal to totality kind of thing, and that's what I thought that Kevin was getting at originally. But it sounds like what he's getting at now is a more semantic thing. It sounds like he's saying, if I say a human has these qualities here, and I remove these qualities, then it's not a human anymore, so it doesn't have value. It's like if I get what you're trying to do there, but because Kevin, it seems like you're saying, once you remove enough traits, then it's not even a human anymore. So does it actually, like, you're literally not even talking about a human? Why would it have value? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I was saying like if you remove those traits, there's no you don't have to justify treating it as a human anymore in an ethical sense. Like, you give it ethical rights such as not killing them in that sense. Not
yeah,
that's basically
so just to be clear, it doesn't matter if the thing remains a human or not. You're just looking at the starting point is they agree that a human has value. So you're just looking at, is there some quality I can remove that'll cause it to lose value?
Gotcha.
If there is, well, to be clear, it's got to be a quality it's got to be something of the animal, right? So it can't, like, I mean, obviously there's qualities we can remove that we'll all agree makes a human lose value, like sentience. So you're just looking at the human has value, the animal apparently doesn't. So there's got to be something about the animal that if we make that the case for the human will lose value. So if you can find something, you're going to say, okay, the thing is intelligence, and I'm willing to kill humans who are below a certain level of intelligence. Then you've got a consistent position, but it cuts against basic human rights. So most people would dismiss it as absurd.
You see, that's the thing. You keep saying it cuts human rights, but what makes that something have human rights is that trait that you just cut off. So why are you saying that that thing or that that thing has human rights?
I think you might be getting hung up on semantics a bit, because you're thinking about the term human.
I mean, like,
it sounds like you're saying that it's about the term human rights. It's just about rights. It's just rights in general. Think of it like that, if that's easier for you. You agree that there's you agree there's rights at the starting point, that the human has certain rights. Let's not call them human rights. Let's just say rights that you believe that they should have. So you're just looking at, what is it that I can remove from them that's going to cause them to not have those rights in my mind anymore?
Yeah, I would say that using rights instead of just human rights makes it better in that sense, as in, like, they can't really argue, because if you remove those traits, then
because you're just saying if you remove those traits and it's not a human, then the term human rights doesn't apply to it anymore. But that's semantic, right? Because that's just saying the word human no longer applies to this, so human rights technically don't apply to this. That's not actually a moral evaluation where you're going, do I think this being should still have a right not to be killed? So if you want me to drop the term human rights and just say rights, I'm happy to do that. I just use human rights because it's an easy thing to get people to understand.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is that you say that the entity is just to establish a contradiction between identifying a human and not identifying, but like treating a human differently than an animal. So I think by you saying not using rights, it's the same, that we're using human rights doesn't really matter. I mean, I think it does matter, because you're trying to establish what's the difference between a human and animal, which is
okay. Let's just say rights then. Do you still see a problem when we just say rights instead of human rights, or are you just hung up on the language?
I think I'm hung up on the language because that's kind of what your argument is about.
So yeah, I'll just say rights instead of human rights. So,
but then it wouldn't. Yeah.
I'm asking if you still see a problem if I can say rights instead of human rights if that's better for you.
Yeah, but then it's not really about understanding what are the traits that makes a human different from an animal. It's just something that makes, I don't know how to like frame it. Like
it sounds like you're saying that it sounds like what you're trying to get at is when I say it reduces someone to inconsistency or absurdity being a position that cuts against basic human rights, that you'd rather I just use the word rights than human.
Yeah, that's real.
That's fine. I just say human rights because it makes people automatically think of something they understand. They have like a little association there. Like if you say basic negative rights, anyone who kind of knows philosophy there will be like, okay, right, not to be murdered, right, like this or that. And sometimes you'll notice in conversations, I literally end up just saying rights. And it's because I'm not actually making some careful differentiation of rights and human rights. It's just a general idea. So I'm not like wedded to the language there. I'm happy to just say rights instead if you think that that's an easier way to digest it.
Like, would you say like, oh, this is just a way to get them to acknowledge that there's something that both humans and animals share, that they both have rights in that sense? Like, would you say like that's a way to get from someone who doesn't necessarily agree with that humans and animals are the same in those rights?
The thing that Name the Trait is designed to do, and if you get technical about it, it can sometimes kind of trip people out. But fundamentally, what the argument is doing is you're checking to see if animals are a morphism of human that retains value in that person's mind. So if you want me to get clear on it, you have a human over here, you have an animal over here. So the question, look, switching qualities of the human will eventually transform them into an animal once you switch all the qualities. Like you switch hands for hoofs, you've gotten one step closer to a cow. You switch human intelligence level for animal intelligence level, you've gotten one step closer to a cow. You know, there's a whole ton of traits, and once you switch them all, the human would actually become a cow. So the thing that you're trying to do with Name the Trait is see if one of those qualities that separates animals from humans actually justifies the murder. So the way you do that is you just see if this trait is removed, does it actually justify murdering the human? And if there's not a single trait, there's nothing about the human that you could change to make it like the animal that would cause it to lose its value, then the animal is actually a morphism of the human that retains value. So to then say the animal is valueless would be a logical contradiction.
But why do you just say one trait? Why not all of the traits? I mean,
just for speed's sake, you can use more than one trait if you want to.
Yeah. Kind of got lost there.
That's okay. That's okay. It can be more than one trait, and I think you might still need to like wrap your head around the argument a little bit. So I don't want to like boggle your mind with too much stuff right now. But there's also this one thing that you keep hinting at, but I'm not sure if you're doing it intentionally. There's one argument where you can say the thing that makes it okay to kill the animals is just the total sum of differences that separate an animal from the human. If you change every single trait, the human doesn't have value. Well, that's just an appeal to a unspecified totality of differences. So that would justify, again, I've kind of said this before, that would justify discriminating against anything. There's a totality of unspecified differences between you and me, or between you and a black person, or between you and whatever other object in the universe you want to look at. So you can never just appeal to the total sum of unknown traits that differentiate two objects. You could be consistent. You have to bite the bullet on a really insane position.
I think one of the things that's pretty confusing about like Name the Trait is that like you try to find a trait that like actually like gives an example for like you know like that something that can separate the animal from the human through name the trait. But the problem, or like the thing that makes people confused, is that there is no trait, no single trait that like makes them ethically like that allows us to say like we can kill these animals now. There is no single trait that allows us to say that, and that's the thing that's kind of hard for a lot of people.
It is subjective. So an individual could say that there is a trait, but yes,
Yeah.
for most people, being intellectually honest, there would not be a trait.
Yeah, like I can't think of anyone.
I mean, the thing is also that there's a really like there's a more complicated, nuanced level that you can get at on this argument if you're talking to someone who's kind of like philosophy minded. Like you can get at the fundamental notion that objects are constellations of traits, and that if one constellation is a morphism of another constellation that retains a certain property, you can't then say that that same constellation lacks that property. That'll make sense to someone who spends a lot of time with philosophy, but that'll confuse most people. So that's why when I'm doing a debate, I try to keep it at the simplest level possible and just say, what is it that makes it okay to kill an animal? And if a human had that, would it be okay to kill a human? But there's a whole deeper level to how that argument works, though.
Especially for people that aren't like Native Americans or native English speakers, like putting all these like big words in the in the conversation like might cause more confusement. Is that a word?
Confusion. Yeah.
Confusion. Confusion. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah, I think also I do not use big words when I don't need to. My principle, I've always hated it. You don't want to speak like you're a grade 10 trying to write an essay for English class. You want to always choose the smallest word that conveys your meaning properly. So if I have a choice between a big word and a small word, and there's not actually more clarity that comes from the big word, I'm going to opt for the small word. But I do understand that some philosophical lingo is kind of unavoidable and is harder for people with a language barrier. I would not deny that.
What was the guy that makes like Facebook posts all the time that people talked about? Or you even talked about?
Unethical vegan? The sameness guy?
It's this Paksat dude or whatever, this old guy.
Oh, Gadsad.
Gadsad, yeah, Gadsad. Like he uses a lot of big words.
Yes.
And
it's little,
and like the things that he says are so simple, but like he makes it sound clever by putting all these rare words in it, and it's so stupid.
I know. Well, I think that there's a certain kind of person who's like kind of like an intellectual layman, like someone who's like smart and like knows enough philosophy and just science and stuff like this to be able to understand papers and big words and all this kind of stuff, and who looks at some of the writing coming out of academia and just goes, well, this is just unnecessarily crammed with words to look smart. This is not necessary. Like when Gad had his list of reasons why meat is adaptive, and he had it called like a nomological tree of cumulative this and that, and I was just like, it's. I mean, that just seems so transparently to me like an attempt to say something in bigger words than it needs to be said in. So the intellectual layman is always going to look at that and go like, that's just the showboating attitude of academia right there.
Yeah, I found it so funny when you and Richard like reacted to his video. It was so funny.
Yeah, I had a really fun time doing that. I don't want us to get too hung up on this. So, but you guys know me, I'm a little OCD. I just want to make sure we've addressed Kevin properly. Then we can talk about whatever. Do you feel like you've gotten more clarity here? It's not about the word rights or human. You don't need that there. It's just about seeing if any change of the human towards being an animal would cause it to lose value.
I'd like to make 2 points, and then after this, I can just fuck off, since I think I've taken too much time.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I would give the same time to someone else if they had a genuine problem. It's just the rest of us are just shooting the shit, but you have a actual ethical concern, so I just kind of want to address it. Yeah, ask your 2 things though, and then I'll hit those, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one being the total, the appeal to totality. which
Yep.
you were saying that because if you're using more than one trait, that somehow it's not as good as using one trait. Like I'm
No.
not trying to like, yeah.
That's not what I'm
What do you
saying.
mean by that? Yeah.
The totality is when it's not just, there's a difference between appealing to multiple traits and appealing to the totality of traits that separates two objects. There's always a totality of traits that separates two objects. So if you can appeal to an unspecified totality, that would justify killing literally anything. I can say there's an unspecified totality of traits that separate me from Kevin, so it's okay to kill Kevin. So you wouldn't accept that. That's not the same thing as appealing to multiple traits. So just those are different. Yeah.
But even like, I don't quite think that if you have an unspecified amount of differences, that's kind of different in determining how to treat someone. You can only have like you can still have one trait and say that okay, because you lack this trait or this trait is different from you to me, I can treat you differently, and that different way could be murdering. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't see the difference between using one trait to differentiate between you another person or you another object, and using a total unspecified set of differences between you and that object to treat that object differently than you would treat yourself in that sense. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I don't see the difference between.
Yeah, they both follow the same pattern, but they have different conclusions. So if we take a specific trait like intelligence, and then we take the totality, they'll give different answers. So I'll just show you. So if I say the trait is intelligence and I bite the bullet on that, that's going to justify killing any humans below a certain intelligence level. That doesn't justify, for example, killing me or you, who's above the retarded intelligence level, if we say that's the cutoff point. If the trait is the total sum of unspecified traits between two objects, that doesn't just justify killing people below a certain intelligence level. That justifies killing anyone with whom there is a totality of unspecified differences between you and them. So there's a totality of unspecified differences between me and you, or between me and Cam, or whoever else in here, Anthony, Aaron, so Jose. So that would justify killing literally anybody. The trait intelligence would just justify killing people who are below a certain level of intelligence. If the trait were species, that would justify killing any specific group on the ground of species. If the trait were, I don't know, what are other traits that people use? Self-concept. That would justify killing anything that lacked self-concept, but it wouldn't justify killing literally everything. The appeal to totality, that justifies killing anything, because there's always a totality of differences between any two things in the universe.
Okay, so it's like a maximal version of that.
Yeah, it's like full retard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like fuck everything.
Just understand why before you ask your second question. Do you understand that there is a bunch of traits that separates you from black people, right?
Sure.
So if someone said, look, I don't have to name a specific trait, it's just there's this big group of traits, I don't have to specify them, it's just a total sum of unspecified traits, and that's what justifies murder. Would you accept that?
Well, I wouldn't accept it, but that's the thing, it's subjective. So
yes, some people would. Some people would, but most people would react like you. Even most carnists would react like you and say no. And if they're going to say no, then they can't say it's just the totality. Because just like there's a totality of unspecified traits that separates you from black people, there's a totality of unspecified traits that separates me from you, and that separates me from a computer screen, or that separates the sun from a rock. So that would justify killing literally anything.
Yeah. And the second point being that your entity, so it's like basically if you take all the qualities, all the human qualities, and you remove them, the point of that is not to say that, okay, now that you've removed them, it's okay to do that. It's just that the person
is not a human.
It's non-human, but the person listening to the argument instinctually, like most people would instinctually know that that's just not enough to justify, treating them in that ethical manner, which is in this case murder, because there's still something which is beyond a human that both humans and non-animals and animals share that would not justify murder in that sense.
Yeah, pretty much anything other than sentience, you're going to be able to expose a logical consequence of holding that as the basis for moral value that'll be kind of crazy.
You said conscience. Why?
I'm not saying you have to say sentience is the trait, but most reasonable people would say something along the lines of like a trait that's actually legit and that I would actually accept being killed if I lacked is something like sentience or capacity to experience well-being or something like this.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to get like with the point of NTT. So like not specifically just to see that if the actual differences between an animal and a human, it's just that even if you take all the differences that make a human non-human, there's still something underlying both groups that the person listening to the argument would say, okay, it's still a bit insane if I murder this person if they don't have these human traits, because there's something beyond that.
That's not exactly how I'd phrase it, but that is close enough to what I'm talking about that I'll say yes. Yeah, because I mean, if you want to say the point is just to get them to funnel a ton of traits through, get them to try intelligence, try cognition level, or that's basically the same thing, try emotional range, get them to try all these traits and show that all of them produce a situation they don't want, then ultimately they're going to realize, well, the trait has to be something like sentience. Then yeah, that's a way that you could look at it.
Yeah.
A shared property like sentience.
Yeah.
So you said a shared quality. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
because the point is all the qualities that aren't shared that you could try appealing to, most people won't accept the logical consequence, what it means for humans.
Yeah. Yeah, still getting to it. So yeah, should be good.
I'm pretty so this stream is recorded. Now, from my perspective, what you have said here has been addressed very thoroughly and completely. So I think that by watching this over, you will probably be able to, like, just on your own time, watch it, zero in. You'll probably get a better understanding. And on the next Patreon live stream, you can come with like even more specific questions to hone in on this if you're still having issues with it.
By the way, Isaac, do you have a favorite professional?
Sorry, just before we move on, okay. is that good?
Yeah. Just one little thing.
Okay. Okay. Last one.
Repetition of clarification. Yeah. So it was about my second point that your NTT point wasn't to its original intention was not to highlight what would actually happen if a person was to say, okay, these differences when removed from that person would justify me performing a different ethical action to them. It would show that there's something more to that. Like that's what I got from it. Like, because
that's the general thing it does. It either reduces someone to an inconsistent position. This trait justifies killing animals, doesn't justify killing humans. Inconsistent. Or it reduces them to an absurd position. This trait justifies killing animals and humans, so I'm willing to just kill a bunch of humans. And the conclusion of either is like, okay, those are both pretty bad places to end up, so I should probably rethink my position. It seems like there's probably, some kind of, there's not really any basis for devaluing the animals. That's the general position. So that's about as clear as I can get. So I think if you want to watch it over and hone in and have more precise questions on it next time, we can go deeper on it yet again. Cool.
All right.
I have a suggestion too.
Kevin, let's let Aaron go just because. Oh wait, was that Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay, well you haven't talked at all. Sure, go ahead.
Just a suggestion for Kevin. I don't know how long he's known about Isaac, but watch Isaac's content. It really will explain very thoroughly kind of the whole idea behind Name the Trait. And I'm sure he's run into these types of questions in debates or, Carnus making videos about it. So that's what I would encourage you to do. It's really helped me.
Good.
Over the past year.
Good. And yes, these have all come up in debates also, just for the record. Aaron, what were you trying to say there?
Yeah, just a random question. Do you have a
Sure.
favorite professional skateboarder?
Oh shit, man! I don't really follow skateboarding. I mean,
Oh, you
I
don't?
always,
Okay.
I know, like I love skateboarding, but I'm not big into the culture. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I don't even know who modern skaters are. I mean, I always had respect for Rodney Mullen just because he kind of pioneered the whole like
Yeah.
doing flip tricks on a skateboard.
Well, yeah, he was one of the first, or if even the first.
Yeah, just took it to a really crazy level. Do you skate?
Well, yeah, a bit, but not like on a not on your level. Let's just say that.
Oh, I don't skate on any level.
I can't. Wait, what was that on that Instagram video? What was that? A hard flip or whatever? I don't know.
So just a hard flip and a fakey
Yeah,
big flip.
hard flip. Yeah.
Both of which were sloppy, but yeah.
Yeah, well, but I can't even do something close to that. I can do a kickflip and a ollie or whatever, and like I can
Yeah, man,
go
the
down
basics.
ramps and whatnot.
Totally.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I like Nigel Houston a lot because he's vegan and he's one of
I
the
know
best.
that name.
Yeah, he's been like dominant for the last 10 years or whatever, and like he is vegan, so yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's
just
intense.
why I
didn't know that.
empathize with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. No, it's sweet seeing vegan athletes just fucking killing it. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, I guess we actually have Anthony here. I mean, your picture looks like you deadlifting fucking 5 times my body weight. So
Yeah, that was a good picture. I was happy. That was actually that was New Year. That was January of 2017. New Year's Eve. So it wasn't actually 2017. It was 2016. But
How much is that?
545 pounds.
Oh, damn.
Holy shit! I weigh like $185 or something. So that's like multiple times my body weight right there.
How much is that in kilogram?
Oh,
let me
God.
see. 500. What was that?
545 pounds. On my Instagram, I actually competed in powerlifting for a while, and
Cool.
my best pull was 575 pounds. It's actually on my Instagram.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
575.
Oh, and I didn't eat meat to get there.
No, that must be a myth. You built all your muscle when you were eating meat.
My best deadlift is 440 pounds. So
Nice.
flat 200 kilograms.
That's still over double my body weight. You guys could just have one of me on each end of the bar lifted.
Well, yeah.
That would be an Instagram video.
Well, I do powerlifting and weightlifting more for fun and like not as serious as Anthony. Let's just say that. Also, I'm only 19, so yeah, I haven't hit my strength peak anyways. So.
Oh fuck nay. Yeah, for me, like, no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it looks like from the picture you've been doing physique type, or you just have good genetics.
Well, I don't know if I have good genetics or not, but I've like only just like been training on and off for the last 3 years. Like I bought a ton of gym equipment, like I don't know, like 500 pounds in weights and just then a bar, so that I can train at home because the next gym is like 10 kilometers away and I have to like take public transit to get there, and it's like super annoying because it takes up like 4 hours of the day. And like when you want to like train regularly, it's
inconvenient.
Inconvenient. So I just bought a ton of gym equipment. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still like 50% consistent. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
I train on.
I'm pretty on and off with it too.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I never had really gotten into weight training, and then my buddy just got me into it like a month or two ago. So I've been like fairly consistent. I've been going like about 3 times a week, and it's insanely fun. You get used to it, and you just go in and just listen to podcasts and death metal and just lift weights and
go
and
especially
what's your bench.
Especially in the beginning. You get a lot of strength.
I finally, you guys are just gonna laugh at me. I finally got the 45 plates on each side, and I was like,
yes. Good for you.
No,
man.
that's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, that is huge.
Seriously. Well, for squat or for deadlift, like what?
For bench press. Sorry, I don't even do deadlift.
Okay, cool. That's good, man. Like for like just first month, 45s on each end. It's pretty decent.
I think I've been going now for either either 2 or maybe a bit more. I don't know. It could be actually longer than that. I'm so bad with time.
You make the fastest progress now.
Well, I'm 25, so I'm a bit over my peak. It's not something I'll ever dedicate like massive time to, but my general kind of philosophy on it is like, it seems to me that you want to be in good shape. If you want to put the time in to get extremely jacked, I have huge respect for that, but you want to be generally strong. You want to have a good physique where people like look at you and can tell you care about yourself and work on it. It just, I don't know, it just commands authority. It makes you stronger. It's got a bunch of benefits, good for your health. I just don't see why anyone would say that that's not something that they should incorporate.
I just want to be above average. I just want to be above average when it comes to strength and whatnot. Because, like, I don't know, you feel superior in some sense. I don't know.
well, yeah. I mean, you can only choose so many things to really work your ass off at. You're still like also younger too. Like, I'm not fucking some old man or something, but like, when you're your age, you can still fucking pick up a ton of shit. But yeah, I mean, because you can be like, oh, I want to learn music, I want to learn philosophy, I want to do weight training, I want to do fighting, I want to learn about physics. It's like there's so many things, and you can kind of be a Renaissance man and learn a bit of everything. But if you really want to get good at shit, it's almost like you got to pick a few areas and just be like, this is the shit I'm going to spend my time on.
Yeah,
completely agree.
And for me, with respect to weight training, it's not one that I would put in that like super high level of this is something that I'll dedicate massive amounts of my life to, but it's at the level of like, this is a thing that I'm pretty sure I will always do regularly now, not with some crazy goals in mind, just general good physique goals.
Yes, there are so many more benefits to weight training than having a lower body fat percentage and looking jacked. You know, there's much more to it than just
you list some off. I mean, there's health, there's confidence, there's obviously people treat you differently because you command more respect. I mean, what do you want to say some others?
There's effects on your brain health. So
really?
Your different, how can I say it, like different release of neurotransmitters and whatnot. You know, you hear it all the time. You release endorphins when you exercise. I mean, you release other things too, dopamine, norepinephrine, and these things actually help with cognition, memory formation, mood, you know. So all this stuff stems from the brain, and
and all that stuff together increases your brain activity too.
Yeah. And when you speak of the brain, I also kind of, for me, it seems like the best thing you can do is a kind of dual path where you're like, you put time into physical things. Like you should probably do some kind of stuff for like strength training. And it's also, you should be able to fight, because it's kind of weird to be a huge dude and not know how to choke another man out or like win a fight. It's kind of strange. But
instantly beat up.
Well, yeah, because you see this at jiu-jitsu, because there's guys who come in who are huge, who think that their size will give them the advantage, and it's like, it helps, but if you're against someone who knows technique, it will not matter even remotely.
Yep.
So, but then the dual path, there's also the mental stuff, and the mental stuff is like meditation and reading and thinking and getting good at organizing your own thoughts and getting clarity and developing good philosophy. So I see two sides there. There's like the quality of your conscious experience, and then there's the quality of your actual, physical experience, and both of them are worth.
And you have to have a balance, and that's pretty much with anything. Like, for example, in competitive gaming, that's also a big thing, because like you can have insane mechanics, like you can have be like super accurate with your aim and whatnot in Counter-Strike, but you can but at the same time you can be like insanely stupid and just run into situations that are like very bad for you. So like it's always like this let's just say IQ versus physical strength ratio in pretty much almost all things. Like that thing comes up in a lot of topics, especially in sports.
Yeah, no, I think both elements are really key, because there's just advantages to both. Like you want to be physically capable, you want to be strong and able to defend yourself, and all that stuff. And you also want to be mentally agile. You don't want to just be some meathead who's like, yeah, I'm strong, I'm jacked, and I'm a fucking idiot. It's like you also don't want to be some shrimpy little nerd who's got a great mind but who's just physically a twig or something. It's like probably you can specialize in one or the other, but it's worth having at least some degree of balance there.
Yeah, you want to reach your potential. Like if you had a chance to like be jacked or not be jacked, it's like, you know, it'd be nice to be jacked. You know what I mean?
Who would ever say I prefer not to be in good shape? Like, yeah, I mean,
I know people. I know people like that. I have a friend who is a musician, and like he like I once showed him a video of like John Venus. You probably all know him, and like he was like, "What the fuck? That looks disgusting!" Like the amount of muscle that he had, and he doesn't even look like ultra jacked, and like I was like so weirded out. Like he's like John Venus is just a fit dude.
Okay,
like,
there's one or two things there, because first of all, there is a level that someone can get to where I can understand people being like, okay, that's like a little insane in the muscle department. That just looks kind of crazy to me. I don't think John Venus is an example of that. He's looks very good.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of the psychological motivation there is that when you're talking to a guy who has not put the time into doing that, it's the same as like the cognitive dissonance with meat and how most people will just generate bullshit. It's like they generate a reason not to value the thing that they kind of on some level subconsciously do value. You know, it's like, you know, who'd want to be in good shape? Like, what the fuck? And it reminds me also of, there's 3 things that every guy will always tell you he can do, but it's just often not true. Every guy will say he can pick up women, make money, and win a fight. And most guys can't actually do any. So it's just, it's like part of it is just the male ego of just, they just want to believe they can do this. But it's like, you know, like I've been with people who, I can't even tell you how many times this happens. Someone who's shrimpy as fuck and has not trained at all, doesn't know how to fight at all. And who will tell you, you know, yeah, like, I mean, you might not think it, but when I get mad, I just go into a crazy rage and I can just kick ass. And it's like, I know that you would like to think that about yourself, but you don't know what it's like to actually try to fight someone who's trained. You have no idea. And if you spent a day at an MMA gym, you'd just be like, okay, my rage power strategy is actually not very viable. This is not going to work.
Oh,
failing to produce a result. Sorry, what's up?
An even more extreme version of that is like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but some blind people deny that they are blind and they pretend to see things. And so like that's the more extreme version of it. Well, where they like when you show them like 3 fingers or whatever, and you ask them like, how many fingers am I showing, and then they obviously don't know. They say some random number like 5 or whatever, and then they blame it on like you tricking them into like not seeing the exact number and shit like that. Like I saw that on Lemino, on one of Lemino's videos on the YouTube. Who that is. It's a top 10 YouTube channel with like a couple million subs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because there's things that people won't accept about themselves, because it would shatter their mental image of themselves, which everyone has this weird mental image that they're perfect. It's weird. Not everyone. Some people are actually like, okay, no, there's like a million departments I could work on myself, but a lot of people are walking around with this unexpressed but still held belief that they're the perfect being. And it's like you bring up something even indirectly by just saying, oh, I think this guy's jacked as fuck, and it's like they feel this subconscious need to just express why that's not a good thing. And it's like, when someone does that, to me, all that says is just, you're going to get nowhere in life. Like when I see someone who has achieved something that I haven't achieved, when I see someone who's smarter than me, who's better at philosophy, quicker on their feet, has higher mental RAM, and can remember the topic and zero in better, when I see that, I respect that. I go, that is cool. I want to see more of what they're doing and learn from that. When I see someone who's learned any skill that I have better than me, when I see someone who's, well, working out's not a great one because I have barely any skill in that department. Something like music, you know, when I see someone who can play a guitar better than me, or who's just got better well, it's hard to say better creative expression, but who's got really fucking cool and individual creative expression on the instrument. I mean, everyone can have that reaction of, I don't want them to be as good, but it's like my mind very, very quickly goes to, why the fuck would I ever think that? That's insane. I want people to be happy. And this person has put a ton of time in. I want it to pay off, and I want all the fucking best for them. So congrats on this. And if I care about this, I should learn from them. So it just depends. It depends what attitude you take. And I guess this theme has come up a few times in this talk, but there's just different types of people. There's people who are honest, who will admit error, who can accept cognitive dissonance, who don't need to see themselves as constantly perfect. And those kind of people have potential for growth. And then there's people who don't, and they don't.
Yeah,
I found it pretty weird how many people that actually are like that, like ignorant.
A lot of the people I'm around
most people
are actually not like that. I guess it's because the community I'm in, like I'm in.
That's good.
I'm in like I am in the military, but like I'm in a smaller community where people are, on average, way smarter than the rest of the people in the military. So like, yeah.
Oh, we have a new person here. What's up, Tom?
He's muted, I think. Looks like.
I'm aware that he's muted. If you have, it's at the top of your screen. There's a little red sign on the mic. If you click that, it'll unmute you. Or you can do it by clicking on your box. So I don't know. If you want to say anything, Tom, just feel free to cut right in. But, sorry, go ahead. What's up?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I definitely want to get into MMA and all that stuff. I think probably when I move to Georgia in the next couple months.
Oh, it's so fun. Like for me, I'm at such a basic level with that shit, but it's just so fun. And when you get just that base level of skill, like with jiu-jitsu, it's so trippy because it's one of those diminishing return type things where like at the start, the gains that you make have such massive value. Like just putting in 6 months of stable, multiple times a week jiu-jitsu training, you will be able to out-grapple the vast majority of people. When you don't know jiu-jitsu and you try to roll with someone who knows just basic jiu-jitsu, it feels like you're fighting an octopus. It feels like you have no fucking clue what's happening. And it's hard to just fully express just how much it feels like that till you're in the situation getting tapped out by a 16-year-old. So
yeah,
I've been there, and it felt exactly like that.
Yeah, and then it's satisfying to just it's such a fucking grinding it out process. But you're just like, you go in, you get tapped out every single time. You go back again every time, and then finally you're like, you know what? It took me a little bit longer to get tapped out that time. And then a bit later, you're like, you're finally getting the mount on people sometime. And then eventually you tap someone out and you're like, whoa, that's a thing. And then after a while, you get a bit more consistent. And then it gets to a point that you're like, yo, when the newbies roll in here who don't know jiu-jitsu, I actually consistently tap out the newbies now. This is really cool. But then, so it's just this constant grinding process of just getting dominated every day, but just slowly seeing this improvement. And it's just so satisfying and good.
Yeah.
I don't mean to butt in real quick. I'm actually gonna bounce. Sorry I didn't talk much, but next stream for sure good. I'll have some more stuff to talk about. I was a bit busy today, but if any of you guys are on Discord, I'm the supplement dealer on Discord.
Nice name.
Sorry about that.
Feel free to ask me anything about supplements or fitness-related stuff.
Yeah, he'll mail you meth and supplements. All right, good talking to you, Anthony. Have a good day, eh?
Prime shipping, 2-day free shipping. Thanks for having me. Talk to you guys on Discord. See you.
Bye.
Yeah, catch you later.
He was just here to say that at the end, huh?
Wait, just a side question.
I'll just say before you go to your question, I'm just going to say it's about 11:30 right now. So at about 12, I think I'm going to call it. So like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you guys know Patrick Baboumian, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. But do you also know Clarence Kennedy?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
he does squats and shit.
He's either DM'd me or I've seen him in my comments. I know I've had some level of interaction with that guy.
Yeah, because like I still get the comment like how are you going to build strength and whatever like on a vegan diet, like and then I just link those two people and then they shut up. It's so funny.
Say they're on gear or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's I mean, just the empirical evidence is so clear. I'm amazed when people try to make the health case. And hey, speaking of which, I was going to ask you guys, there's so many things to fucking talk about. What do you guys have any thoughts on the Blair White shit?
Yeah. I still need to watch the stream because
10 years. 10 years.
Oh, 10 years though. Oh yeah. It doesn't have to be just on my stream or my videos. I just mean the whole situation in general. If you have any reflections on it.
You know, just from like watching the first, I guess like probably like the first half, like it became pretty clear she wasn't, from just the stuff she said, it didn't seem like she was really vegan. It seemed like she was more plant-based. Because there were like super chat donations and she was like agreeing with typical Carnage bullshit at that point. And I was like,
And wasn't there, didn't you find that there was a variety of things that indicated that she was not deeply into veganism? Like she didn't know what nutritional yeast was. I find it hard to believe that anyone who's deeply immersed in the vegan community wouldn't know what nutritional yeast is after 10 years.
True.
Yeah, I found that out.
I knew what it was before.
Or like her saying that, you know, she has a problem with the factory farming and the slaughter methods. That's not the kind of talk that you hear deep within the vegan community. That's like the kind of stuff you hear at the very surface level, where you've got people who are talking about welfare, who are more, they're not, that's like the vegan vegans. Any vegan on YouTube is talking about abolition. Or she called unnatural vegan the unnatural vegan, which also indicates you don't watch those videos or even really know her channel.
Yeah, so she said she was a good representative.
I mean, to be fair, I think in a lot of ways Swayze's good. I just think she does some things that are really bad.
Yeah, she's done a few things.
Yeah, like it's like that whole thing I said with Paul on that stream. Like, I will always recognize the good someone does, but there's some issues I have with her. But point being though, it's like it's just hard to believe that someone who's deep into it would be talking about welfarism, calling Swayze the unnatural vegan, not knowing what nutritional yeast is. Not like, didn't she say some weird shit about fortified foods too? There's just a lot of things in there that indicated that she wasn't deeply immersed in the vegan stuff.
Yeah.
She was saying like, how can it be bad if it's easier for me or something? I don't know. It was so weird.
Well, it's like she just hopped on the vegan diet because she heard it somewhere, and then she just had the knowledge of like, I don't eat animal products in her head and nothing more, and she never researched more. That's like the feeling that I get when I listen to her.
I think to be honest, if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably somewhere between that and being a legit ethical vegan. I think that she probably was younger and saw slaughter footage and saw health information and a bit of exploration and was like, yeah, this is bad, I shouldn't do it. But then just many years of not really focusing on it, just being passively vegan, kind of cringing at some of the activists and whatnot, and then it's just you just get calcified and you stop really caring and lose the connection. I doubt that she didn't ever care about the ethics at all. I think she probably cared on some level in a kind of not really like philosophically informed way. That would be my bet.
Yeah, and I think she also said like she would still buy cruelty-free makeup or something like that, which is smart, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it's better than not, but it's still
it's just weird.
Very strange. Yeah, and the thing is, people talk about how you always have to, in these conversations, you know, talk about how good it is that they're doing what they can. And I don't get that. It's like, why not? It's perfectly possible to acknowledge that what they're doing is better than something else and not say, I think your position is ethical. And it's not like that created some massive tension in that conversation when I said that to her.
That's why it always annoys me when people find out I'm vegan and there's like somebody that runs up like, oh, I'm pescatarian. Like, okay.
I tell him, I'm like, look, man.
You're that guy. Pescatarian.
Well, and there's always when your veganism comes up, whether you mention it or it's just indirectly alluded to somehow.
Yeah.
People who say things like, I'm pescatarian, I don't eat much meat.
Meatless Monday.
Factory farming, I buy free range. All of those, the psychology behind that is they sense there is some value to what you're saying. They want to pander to you to a degree, so it doesn't seem like they're like unreasonable.
To make themselves feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they wouldn't say that unless they thought that there is something good about eating less meat. I mean, they're either trying to appeal to you or they're trying to justify their actions to themselves. Like if someone didn't. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of strange. It's like, it seems to me like that's coming from a place of trying to convince themselves that what they're doing is appropriate as is. And another weird little thing there is that they always seem to want your approval. Like you say I'm pescatarian, and then they look at you and they want you to say, they want you to say good job, and it's like, I mean, often I just won't say anything, but then if they press me for an opinion, I'll be like,
yeah, I'll just like nod.
It's better than being a full-on carnist, but it's not ethical. I mean, why would you stab a fish? And then often they'll get offended, but often they won't. It depends how you say it. So
I think
or
those
like
guys
I bring
are
up
just weird.
hunting a lot too, like as if that's I'm like, better. It's just like, I mean, it's better, quote unquote.
Whoa, I just noticed we have 2 Toms in here now.
Wait, maybe he joined on another account.
Oh, maybe.
Be a thing.
Do you have a mic there, Tom number 2? Nope. Just curious. You know,
Typical Thomas doesn't speak.
He's just the man of mystery. Although it looks like his camera is on, but there's a cover on the camera.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh yeah, no, I think it's on. It's tripping me out. You're tripping us all out, Tom.
What annoyed me the most about the Blair debate was, or not debate, but about the discussion, was that she just plain like straight up dismissed the fact that she could go to a nutritionist and get her shit like fixed through that. Like on a vegan, on the vegan way, like she just dismissed that and said, yeah, but that's too much effort. Like I don't want to go through all that again. Like that already, like that weirded me out. Like that doesn't make sense.
That clearly means like she doesn't care then.
Yeah, she doesn't care. Like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, how can you be 10 years vegan and then just not care anymore? Like I don't know.
She shouldn't be whining about like how she tried so hard and she failed if she's not gonna.
It's so weird.
Think of ways to improve. Like, there's just no point in listening to her bitch about it if like she's not gonna want to improve. Like when you give advice to someone and they just dismiss it entirely, it's like why are you bitching about this if you're not going to take my advice?
Well, yeah, it was weird because since that wasn't really a formal debate, and my goal wasn't necessarily to come in and unilaterally like prove one point against her. I kind of had different goals at different times, and I just tried to expose as many little weirdnesses as I could. It's kind of a different thing than what I normally do.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, one of the things that I really wanted to get at, which you just reminded me of, is she was talking about health, but she was also kind of talking about ethics. So it was not clear where she's coming from. So I felt it was important to make it clear that she actually is not ethically on board with veganism, because I didn't want it to be where people are saying, oh, it's just the health, she's just held back. I was like, I have a feeling that if we address the health and were to say hypothetically it's off the table and it's dealt with, she would still say no. And she did. So
she did, yeah.
I'm glad we got that out there.
That was so weird.
Like you guys kind of implied earlier, it's like she probably arrived to veganism, not in the same way that I think most of us did here. Whereas I kind of saw the ethical concern about it, and I realized like, okay, this is actually the right way. This is the more ethical decision. I don't think that's how she arrived at it when she was a kid. I think she just kind of, like you said, she might have seen a documentary or something and kind of got detached to it throughout the years by not being exposed to it as much or not really dealing with it as much, just kind of passively doing it. And I don't think that that's, even if it lasted for 10 years, which, I've only been doing it for a few months, but so I probably, I don't know how valid my opinion of it is, but she probably didn't arrive to it in the same way that, like, for example, I did. Whereas like I kind of already knew what was going on. I was passively supporting it. I was kind of not afraid, but I definitely didn't want to discuss it with anybody because I'd have to kind of face my own hypocrisy. But I realized all of that, and it's like she didn't arrive to it in the same way that we did, and I don't think that, like, for example, I think that for me this has been pretty easy so far to do. I'm actually having some blood work done pretty soon too, just to make sure I'm up to par with everything.
Yeah, I need to do blood work because I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, but for me, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to change for any kind of silly reason. Even if it's a health thing, then I'll just try to address it.
Yeah.
No, because it sounds like you have a sufficient understanding and concern for the ethics that you're gonna place not stabbing a fucking animal above some minor discomfort, even if that were to happen, which it probably won't.
Right.
Yeah, and also like immersing yourself in the community helps a lot too. Just keeping you, You
well,
know?
yeah, that's the other thing with Blair, isn't it, Cam? Because she didn't seem like she was immersed in the community.
Yeah,
And,
she barely even talked about it. So
I tried to be understanding of her because I understand that she has felt some kind of connection personally to the community, and that it felt like a very harsh rejection she was getting from the community. So I do get where she's coming from there, but I do have to say it doesn't seem like she was deeply immersed in the community from what I could personally tell.
Yeah.
And then I also, Richard just sent me this message. He's posted on Twitter some videos, I guess, where he's from this is from his weaponized autism going through like Blair shit. He's just put together videos of her contradicting herself, and he's just uploading it and tagging her. And she blocked
Oh
him.
my god.
It's so funny. Today he's like, I don't care if she blocked me, I'll never stop.
Oh, she did block him, yeah.
It's so funny because he actually will never stop. It's like he'll continue bombarding her until he feels he's completely owned her, and then he'll stop. But then it'll just be like every once in a while he'll just smoke her with something out of the blue. Like to this day, if you watch his Twitter, it's just randomly a shot at roaming millennial. Like it's just like, you know, life is just happening, everything's normal. Roaming millennial posts a picture of a bunny. Vegan Gains asks if she'd eat it.
Yeah, that's why I love Richard so much. Like, holy shit, he just completely destroys people. I love it.
I know. And you know, the funniest thing is people think he's an asshole, and he's actually a extremely nice guy, and he never sits there and tries to defend himself as a nice guy. And it's like, if you actually know him, he's incredibly friendly. He's incredibly helpful, help you with whatever you want. He's helped random ass people who I barely know, who I haven't been able to answer their ethical questions, and I send them over to him, and he has an extensive conversation with them. It's like the amount of time he'll put into helping random ass people with veganism or like doing shit for his friends and stuff. It's actually very intense, although he would never boast about it. And I don't know if that's because he's modest or because he doesn't even recognize that it's a positive quality. That
he's kind of an introvert, IRL.
He's very much an introvert.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like know that actually, like from just watching his YouTube videos, like because he's so open on his YouTube channel. Like in real life, he's ultra introverted. Like he's so quiet, he almost never starts a conversation.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that from like when he met all those bodybuilders at whatever event that was in a video, and like you could kind of tell like he I
wouldn't say ultra.
No, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because he is very much he keeps to himself. But it's not like the kind of thing where you'll say something and he'll just sit there and say a word and then not say anything. It's like if you engage him, he will engage you back at length. But he's not like normal like most people there. It's like he doesn't come in and feel the social pressure to just communicate with you and do all this. Like he's just kind of in his own world a little bit, and he'll talk to you if you talk to him. And I'm fine.
Makes sense because he also once said, or multiple times he said that he's a bit of a sociopath. Like,
I think that could very well be true.
Be one of the things. Like he said that like a couple of years ago, I think, in multiple videos.
No, he has said it. I mean, I haven't seen like a doctor's report that he's a sociopath, and I mean, it seems like if he's mentally sane from his mental check that they did for him to be able to get his guns back, he might not be a sociopath, but I definitely think that he has some sociopathic tendencies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he also had a pretty major worldview shift from taking all those mushrooms. Like, I mean, you just look at the point where he took those mushrooms, and his whole video style is just different. It's just all different after that.
He's definitely calmed down a lot from his older videos.
Yeah,
it happened abruptly. It was he took the mushrooms, and then his videos were different. It was like now he's calmer a lot of the time, and it has increased even more after that. Like, I think some of it is also just getting experience and determining how he wants to operate. Like in the first live debate he did with roaming, like he ended up just yelling at her and just getting so mad. And I think he saw the reaction of a lot of people being like, yes, you're right, but people being like, there is actually just a bit too much aggression, and he scaled it back to a point that now he's actually less aggressive than I am in a debate. So
I definitely had that opinion with his debate with her.
Yeah, for me, I was like, he totally won. He was correct, but I think it could have been just a bit less forceful, and I think he thought the same thing, and he changed it.
I want to see roaming millennial do an IQ test.
No, you
Holy
don't.
shit!
Why would you want your faith in
Well,
humanity?
no, I want to see the below 50 number.
Yeah, I would really love like. Oh, I told you guys already that JF is tweeting like they want to get the battle of Blair White versus the vegans on Warski Live. I want to go against all those fucking all of those like conservative-ish girls like Lauren Southern and Shoe on Head. Like these people have said such dumb things about veganism. I would love nothing more than to just absolutely intellectually skewer them in a conversation, but they don't want to defend their.
Oh yeah,
I'd pay to see that. I'd pay to see that.
Oh, I'm sure a bunch of people would, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I doubt we'll even be able to get it.
It might happen, but like not until it's such a big issue that their audience wants them to address it, and then they might even just like pander. So,
oh god, like who are even the people that are their audience? They must be even lower, like in terms of intelligence. Like, what the fuck? How can you watch people like that? They are so stupid.
Well, I don't know, because it's weird. I again don't actually think these people are stupid on a lot of other topics. I think that
not in that sense, but
veganism.
In the sense that what they say, like. So sometimes, like in terms of veganism and whatnot, like there's so many things that are just factually wrong that they state all the time.
I know.
I think a lot of people,
like a normal Google search can like prove that they are wrong, and it's like then people even support their opinion even though it's factually completely incorrect and it doesn't make sense. Like that's why I don't understand how people can watch that, or like how even these people exist. It's so weird.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use Google. They don't know how to use fucking Google.
It's part of why my name is Ask Yourself, because I've always had a certain type of charisma that causes people to agree with me when they don't actually know if I'm right. So that's something I really don't like. I don't like when I see people who I can tell they're just going to agree with me no matter what I say. If you find yourself agreeing with me a lot of the time because what I'm saying makes sense to you, then that's fucking good. But there's a certain type of person that when they talk, it doesn't even demonstrate that they have a clear understanding of what I said, yet they're agreeing with it. And I'm like, where are you coming from? So I think that when you're talking about how do their fans agree with them, well, there's some core amount of people who are like that with any YouTuber or any personality who's big enough, where there's just a group of people who are going to agree with them no matter what the fuck they do.
Yeah.
And then there's concentric circles around that too. Then there's a way bigger circle of people who will agree with them on like pretty much anything they do. And then there's a bigger circle that'll cut them an unreasonable amount of slack. And then outside of that, there's probably a bigger circle where they'll actually get some legit criticism.
Yeah, true.
And I think another reason why they won't.
I was just gonna say it's just there's sycophants would be the word for it. There's some people who they just want to agree with you. That's just all there is to it. But what were you gonna say, Ken?
I was just gonna say, like, I think another reason why the like conservative sort of section won't address it is because I think a lot of them probably think it's still a joke.
Oh yeah, that's a cringy, fucking sad reality right there.
Yeah, they think it's like they just see all the stupid vegan memes and they probably think that's all it is. Like, I remember, was it on Fox News? I can't remember if it was Sean Hannity or one of the dudes on there. He was eating, the fucking steak when he brought on the chick that said that eating meat is like patriarchy or some shit like that.
Oh God.
And yeah, I just think that so many of them still think it's a joke.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And that's why I think we need to there's a Facebook called Team Vegan Takes YouTube. I haven't actually looked at anything that they post, but I love the name. And I think that what we have to do is just beat these ideas to death in the public space and just get it to a point that it's like, if you go up against the vegans, you're going to get fucking annihilated. And when it starts becoming that clear who's right on the topic, then the ability to just blow it off as a joke or laugh at it is going to, that people won't be able to do that as easily.
Yeah, and that's why I like the fact that Joey Carstrong's getting all this media attention. Like, we really need someone like that in America.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there really is anyone like that in America.
I think the conditions are set for it to happen in those other places. Definitely. So it's like a what do you call it? A powder keg or whatever. It's like You just need the right thing to set it off. Just some controversy from some figure at the right time, and then it's like you're gonna have a Joey Carbstrong of America. I'm sure we'll see that happen here too. And in Canada, it will probably be Richard because he's by far the largest activist out here.
Yeah.
He's also very fucking controversial. So I'm sure if the media is going to try to find a fucking vegan to rip on in Canada for some crazy shit when veganism starts gaining a lot of attention, it'll probably be Richard.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I wanted to get into activism too, because like I want to, like, Joey Carson definitely inspired me, so I want to, you know,
totally
try that stuff out too.
Good. Well, yeah.
I have a little question for the next, like the next month or whatever we do this again.
Sure.
Could we start it at 6 p.m. EST and not 9 p.m. EST?
That is fully possible. I kind of like to do them a little bit on the fly, but I can try to accommodate that.
It's because this started at 3 a.m. for me, and now it's 6 a.m. And I've been literally awake through the entire night.
What I'll try to do? You know what I'll try to do? I'll try to alternate back and forth between doing one kind of in my nighttime, then the next month doing one in my morning time. So
that'd be awesome.
It'll get okay. I'll try to do that. That's fair.
That'd be awesome.
Accepted.
Europe, no fucking here. What do you call it? Europe discrimination anymore. Give Europe the same words.
Europeism. Yeah, and the other thing is, I'd really point out, like, veganism is at where something like atheism was at a bunch of years ago. You know, before the new atheism took off, before YouTube became saturated with atheist channels, there's just this room there. And it's just that space is where we need tons of vegan channels. We just need more.
I think we're going at a way faster pace than that too, also. Just the atheism thing.
I find it very hard to gauge the pace, so I have no opinion on that. But I just think that it's not saturated right now. I think that there's tons of room, and I think that the people who get in at this stage are going to get to have a voice if they produce quality content.
Yeah, once I'm done with college and whatever, I'll try to do a YouTube channel too. I'll make a YouTube channel because currently I don't have the time because I'm focused on studying.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, that's
who knows who knows what the situation will look like in 5 years. But yeah, I mean, because the other thing is, like, genres get saturated. Like, if you try to open an anti-social justice channel right now, or like an atheist channel, you're gonna have a very hard time growing an audience base. But veganism is just expanding. Just look at the search term results on YouTube. It's just going up and up and up, and there's so much room, and we're like a very small percentage of the population. And also, just all of the signs indicate to me that there's the people who get in right now are going to have a lot of work to do, and are going to will be presented with the opportunity to do a lot of that work if their content is valuable and gains traction in the free market.
Yeah. We need more people like Richard and you and people that just produce like that have quality personalities that just and then also produce quality content. Like
we got a good range
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do have a good range, and also what I want is, like, a big goal for me is just getting more philosophical clarity among vegans. Like I've said before, I make my content mostly for vegans, not for flesh eaters. It has the effect of turning some people vegan, which is why that tripped me out a bit earlier when you said that, Jose. But it's, I make it for vegans. But what I really want is for us to get to a point that the average vegan understands how to deploy the arguments relatively well. And what I notice, said this before, is from doing what I'm doing on my channel, there are intellectual memes that are spreading that are helping vegans win debates and understand their own philosophy better. So like the notion, and this is just a basic philosophical concept of descriptive and prescriptive. Now that I've said that so many times and explained that so many times in so many debates and hammered so many people with it, I think a lot of vegans now are able to identify the difference between a prescriptive and descriptive answer to a question and notice that particular type of red herring. So that's just one little brick in the foundation that I'm just putting there for people. And I just want to do more and more of that.
Yeah, like I didn't know what it was, and then you basically taught me what it was, more or less.
Same.
And then you see everyone doing it. And it's useful to have in your pocket, because you can just be like, this is exactly why what you're saying is not making sense to me right now.
Yeah, and that's what I did last night when I was up till like fucking 3 a.m. talking to my two friends or whatever. I was like pointing out how they were, doing, and also intrinsically and extrinsically too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like absolutely. Yeah. I heard Joey saying that the other day. I think Joey. Well, he's even said this. He uses a lot of concepts he gets from me, but
yeah,
it's good because that's like the main kind of stuff that I really am happy to see. I'm happy to see people go vegan from my stuff, but I'm happier when I see people like Joey, who already are vegan, having more ease of self-expression and confidence in whatever as a result of better understanding of the philosophy. That's what I find like very, very satisfying personally.
Yeah, because my confidence has been boosted a lot. Like I debated a fucking full room of people one time just about veganism, and then
just tanked through.
And then like I basically tabled all their points, and then So
yeah, I did that in text chat on another Discord with like 20 people or something like that.
Yeah.
It's so fun to like fucking destroy people when it comes to logic.
Yeah, and I can't wait to go home and talk to my parents about it because I want to destroy them also.
Yeah, I did that too with my mom.
I'm trying to destroy my parents. I love how
destroy them, logically destroy them until they explode.
Yeah, I mean, and also there's one other thing I was going to say about destroying people and logic. Oh fuck, what was it? It slipped my mind.
Hey, it's midnight for you.
No, I was about to hop off, but what did you just say, Cam? You said you were debating people. You said that you wanted to destroy
I wanted to
them.
go home and destroy my parents with veganism, and just like got more confident, and I could.
Oh yeah, okay. I remember what I was going to say. Because the other thing is, before that, I think Aaron said something about debating people in other Discords, and look, you'll see me blow off text debates and tell people I'm not spending my time text debating you. And you might look at me and be like, oh, Isaac thinks he's above that. And I do. I think at this point, I'm not text debating fucking randoms. I have some level of like clout or whatever. And I'm going to actually debate people who have platforms in a live format. But how did I build my skills? 90% on Facebook, debating people in 1,000 comment long threads. So if you do want to get good at debating, I think putting in those hours in the text debates is pretty vital. So don't ever look at someone like me and be like, he's not currently doing that, so why the fuck would I do that? It's like I did that for a long, long time, and that's a pretty major part of how I got good at it.
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit in it on Facebook, but I've been picking it up.
You have to. It's like the text helps you clarify your theory to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But you also, the voice stuff, you have to be able to actually defend it.
Yeah, I like doing voice more because text is so fucking sluggish.
You can develop the same skills through doing voice. I just personally ended up doing a lot of it in text.
Yeah, you can just do way more over a longer period of time in text. So yeah.
Yeah, you can be like the new philosophical vegan. All right, guys. It's been really good talking to all of you. And if you're still patrons next month, we'll talk again.
Yep.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Have a good one. Great stream.
See ya.
See ya.